in peace.
Season of Discovery is here, and this is a guide for Enhancement Shaman DPS. If you would like a tanking guide, I've also got that, so check out my channel. Clicking that subscribe button down below, it may only be one click for you, but for me, it really helps support me get all these videos out for you to enjoy. Now, first of all, we're going to be talking about the race. If you want to be Alliance, then tough luck because you can't. Shaman is only for Horde in Classic, and that does extend to Season of Discovery, unfortunately. Now, personally, I would pick Orc. They do have the best racials, mainly stating Axe specialization. The best in-slot weapons I'm going to be recommending to you shortly in this video are going to be axes. You can also be a troll who have regen and beast slaying, etc. No weapon specializations that help us. And then Tauren, one of the most beneficial they have is endurance, giving you more health. Overall, there is berserking, by the way, on Orc. I would say then go for Orc. Looking at enhancements, offensive stat priorities. Number 1 is going to be weapon skill. Second is going to be crit. Third is going to be hit. Fourth is strength, and fifth is agility. I think they're all pretty self-explanatory. Agility, by the way, gives you dodge. Now for the most exciting part, let's look at Enhancement DPS's rune choices. We've got 3 here. The first up is Dual Wield. Yes, this does enable Dual Wield for you as an Enhancement Shaman, increasing your hit chance, and Storm Strike will hit with both weapons, FYI. Second up being Lava Burst. More efficient than Lava Lash, and it does more damage in this rotation. And it's always going to crit if your Flame Shock is applied. Last but not least, we've got Shamanistic Rage, which is going to reduce your damage taken and give mana regen, and your party members will also get mana as well. 3 really useful runes here. If you want to know how to get the runes, well, Dual Wield is super duper easy. It's sold by Grisby in Ratchet. In order to purchase it, however, you are going to have to complete some pre-quests. First, oh my gosh, first up being Shredder Turbochargers. You can need to bring Grizzly 16 Shredder Turbochargers, and you can get those by using the Shredder Auto Salvage unit on Venture Shredders in the Windshear Crag of the Stone Talon Mountains. Then Dark Iron Ordnance. Bring Grisby again some ordnance. They are from Dark Iron Insurgents in North Loch Modan. You've really got to do a world tour here for this. And then Fish Oil, where you've got to bring him 24 fish oil. Can get these by slaying Murlocs in the Hillsbrad Foothills or the Wetlands, or you could just get them off the auction house, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Regarding the Lava Burst rune, you want to get the Kajaric icon from Mudsnout Shamans in the Eastern Hillsbrad Foothills, so you could also get that when you were getting whatever it was I said you needed for the Dual Wield rune in the Hillsbrad Foothills, and after acquiring that relic, you're going to have to take damage from lava 5 times. Once you've then done that, you will receive the Inspired buff. Then you can use that icon that you've got from your equipped items, which will teach you the Engrave Gloves Lava Burst rune. Last but not least, being the Shamanistic Rage, you want to go south of the Charred Vale and near the entrance to Desolus in the Stone Talon Mountains. Again, need to go there anyway for the dual wielding one. There is an elite enemy called Primordial Anomaly. This one it's going to basically shift between Fire, Frost, Earth, and you need to use the mob's elemental weaknesses in order to kill it and acquire the rune. If we look at the gear that you're going to be actually wanting to put these things on, then first of all, I'm going to say at top right is the Callus Axe. So you can get these really easily. You're probably going to find them on the auction house. They are BOE, and these are absolutely the best dual wielding, remember, level 25 axe that we can get. And if you do go orc, like I suggested, remember you've got an axe specialization, making it even better for you. Now, for the legs, there are the Trip Runner dungarees from Nomagon. However, I have heard on the grapevine that Nomagon is off limits completely, so I don't think they are going to be obtainable. I think Nomagon is coming as a raid. So, leggings of the Fang from Wailing Caverns would be your best bet for legs. Then we have things like the Silverlane's Family Seal from Baron Silverlane. And one thing I would always recommend is things like the Legionnaire's Band. There's one from Horde and Alliance, and this is from the PvP rep in Warsong. You will need Honoured, I believe, reputation for this one. A few other items here. If you are going for a shield, which you probably won't do you might do until you get your dual wield. We've got the Basalt Buckler. There's some Warsong boots, Spectral Necklace, depending on what you get. You can get those on the auction house. Try and get it with the priority stats if possible. And the Deathkin belt. I have noticed I've double some of the items up here. Actually, I think I got a bit excited. Now on to talents, and this here is the build that I would personally recommend you take. So on the top row, we've got our shield specialization, which is going to increase your chance to block attacks of a shield and the amount blocked. We're not actually going to use a shield, so this is unfortunately a waste, but we do need it to get down to the next row. You could also swap this out for Ancestral Knowledge, but just know that the 5% extra mana you're going to get is so extremely low, it just really doesn't even matter anyway, even though it seems like it would. Next row, we've got Thundering Strikes, which is going to improve your chance to get a critical strike with your weapon by 5%. We've got our improved Ghost Wolf, which is going to reduce the cast time by 2 seconds, and 1 out of 3 points going into improved Lightning Shield, increasing the damage done by your shield orbs by 5%, which is really useful when using those as well. Always make sure you're using that. Then we've got 2 points, sorry, I've got a cold, on the next row, enhancing totems, increasing the effect of Strength of Earth and Grace of Air totems by 15%, and last but not least, our 1 point going into Flurry, which is that last one at the bottom, increasing our attack speed by 10% for your next 3 swings after dealing a critical strike. Oh, you know what? I think, like, gosh, how am I getting a cold? I haven't left the house. But when you actually release over 30 videos in 2 weeks, you know, it's probably going to happen, isn't it, right? While also working a full-time job. So please do subscribe, because now I'm not. Looking then at how we're actually going to do our DPS rotation. So first up, we're going to put our totems down. I would say put down the Strength of Earth and the Searing totem down. You can use the Fire Nova totem if you have enough mana and you've got a lot of AoE that you need to deal with. Then we're going to cast Flame Shock, and we are going to want to keep this up at all times. It's a damage over time. We want to keep this on whoever we're attacking, and then we can use Frost Shock or Earth Shock as well, depending on our mana. And then you want to use Lava Burst and keep this on cooldown. Remember, if it does have Flame Shock, etc. on the target, that Lava Burst is going to do more damage. And you can make sure that you just keep auto-attacking throughout the entire duration of the ordeal that you're dealing with at the time. And that is it. That is the guide for Enhancement Shaman DPS. I hope you guys enjoyed. I am doing all of the class guides for Season of Discovery, and I'm also doing 10.2 retail ones. So if you are interested in either of those, please do click that subscribe button and let me know your thoughts. If you do have any questions, however, also do feel free to join my Discord, where we have a lot of other WoW players who are very knowledgeable.
The current Classic team owns? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like, I think everything that the Classic WoW team is doing is good. Straight up. The Ashen Veil thing isn't really that great for a lot of people, but overall, I think that they are making all of the right decisions. Outside of the WoW token, which was a horrible fucking decision, I think that every decision they made for Wrath of the Lich King has been good too. I think that they've actually, like, they kind of have an idea of what the fuck they're doing. Maybe they play the actual game.
Season of Discovery ends Phase 4 with Karazhan Crypts, but what about what comes before that? And then
Season Discovery ends Phase 4 with Karazhan Crypts. Who the fuck said that? I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. Now, there's a chance it could be true, and I think that, like, I mean, honestly, it probably will be true, but I don't know if it's going to end then.
The fun question of what comes after. Well, we all know that Season of Discovery has 4 phases, and that phase 1 is Black Fathom Deeps at level 25, as well as the Ashen Veil PvP zone for its PvP event. It's our introduction to level up raids and new PvP event zones, letting Blizzard test the waters, dipping their toes in to see just what the Classic player base enjoys and just what it hates. And I think they've hit the nail on the head on how to properly release content and make changes to Season of Discovery because of the phase system. 4 to 12 weeks between each phase is a sweet spot for letting people enjoy content without getting bored. This system lets everyone share how they feel about a new experience, because every person you ask will have a wildly different answer to what is Classic Plus. So this is far more useful to Blizzard than...
Well, it's also, like, it can be kind of hard, because, like, right now, for example, Warlocks are, like, insanely fucking good, right? They're, like, disgustingly good. But maybe at 40 they won't be as good, because other classes will have tools to stop them.
1,000 voices yelling different things.
The drain is
so
nuts.
Black Fathom Deeps and the Ashen Veil PvP event zone are testing grounds for player reactions. When you keep that information in mind, it makes the remaining phases and schedule make a lot more sense. Phase 2 is Numeragon at level 40, and it's a dungeon that's massive, full of flavor, and still abandoned in retail, leaving the gnomes as homeless refugees for almost 2 decades. Just like Black Fathom Deeps, it's a large dungeon that can essentially be broken into different wings and be filled with bosses, events, and quests that just feel natural. And just how Phase 1 had a massive PvP event zone, Phase 2 will have one as well.
I think so.
It should, so long as the player base doesn't lose their collective minds and tear Ashen Veil down so hard that Blizzard cancels their plans. Warlords.
I think that people don't really like Ashen Veil. From, like, everybody that I've talked to, I haven't really heard anything positive about Ashen Veil. So yeah, like, I don't think they're probably going to do another one of those. I don't think they should. Like, if it's, like, maybe they should try it again if they feel, like, really confident about it. But, like, I don't think it's really a good place to invest your time into.
Of Drenna. And whilst BFD is in Ashen Vale, so is Warsong Gulch. So you'd think that Phase 2's PvP zone event should be in the Arathi Highlands to tie it into Arathi Basin. But you'd be wrong, because Phase 2's PvP event zone is in Stranglethorn Vale. Honestly, it would be funny if they kept PvP zone events in the zone of the dungeon, but how could they turn an alliance leveling zone into a PvP event zone? Are all dwarves and gnomes just being exiled to Elwyn Forest? No, that won't happen. But Stranglethorn Vale itself makes perfect sense. A highly contested PvP zone and one that should have had a battleground from the get-go. I
think the problem that, like, World PvP has is that there's a lack of, like, I don't think Blizzard knows how to create objectives for World PvP that don't just turn the game into a min-maxed grind. Because, like, usually what happens, for example, like in Classic WoW, is that people would just farm AV. They would just do AV over and over and over again. Nobody would do PvP. Because the truth is that people usually participate in this content for the rewards. That's what they usually do. And after people stop getting the rewards from the content, most of the participation drops off. And I think that's really what the problem is that if you want to have people play PvP and enjoy it, you should make PvP an intrinsic design, an intrinsic goal to just simply be fun to play, rather than trying to get people to do it by motivating them through, like, gear or some sort of item. How? I don't know how. I think that, like, what I would like them to do for STV, like, this is just my guess, is just give you a weekly quest to kill 50 people in the zone. Kill 50 people that are of at least, you know, like, green level to you, and within, like, your level, and you just kill those people, and that's it. Like, that's probably the best way that I can think of. And I don't even know. No, please? Well, why not? Why do the quest? Well, I don't know. Like, have it give, like, honor or something like that. Minus honor for gray players? No, I don't really think so. Weekly scrub farm? Yeah, and like, again, I really just don't know how to incentivize it. Won't people just trade wins? Yeah, I mean, I think they probably could, or you'd have, like, 5-man groups going around and killing people. Like, so yeah, that could be a problem too. It happens in retail WoW. So it's like, I don't really know how to incentivize MMO PvP other than just, like, letting it be what it is. Because I think the moment that you incentivize it and you try to drive gameplay, it contrives the entire system.
Likely expect a new reputation, a new quartermaster, put some PvP loot down there, but we'll find out more in the coming weeks. Now, Phase 3 is where it gets spicy, but also still makes perfect sense since we have Scarlet Monastery, which comes with the level cap of 50, but it's also just north of a very conflicted and iconic battleground. That's right, Alterac Mountains and thus Alterac Valley. With Scarlet Monastery being one of the most iconic dungeons because of Sally White, I mean because of badass crusaders, and Alterac Valley being one of the most recognizable battlegrounds in World of Warcraft.
See, I actually think that AV is my favorite battleground. Like, I think AV, well, probably Isle of Conquest is, but it's like both, like, the 40-man battlegrounds. Like, I personally don't like playing battlegrounds in, like, a 10v10 or, like, a very small competitive, like, function. I think battlegrounds should be a battleground, right? It should be like, you know, like a skirmish in Lord of the Rings or something like that. Seeing, like, a, you know, 10v10, it just doesn't excite me that much. Maybe I'm weird, but that's what I think.
Perfect combination to throw out for Phase 3.
If I wanted that, I'd play another game
the level
like
cap of
League
50 and Scarlet Monastery being turned into a massive level up raid with new bosses, remastered bosses, new events, quests, and perhaps even a brand new reputation. Phase 3 is looking to be incredibly exciting. The PvP is just icing on that beautiful, delicious cake. And then that brings us to Phase 4 and the first new dungeon in Classic, Karazhan Crypts, a dungeon that was designed back in 2002 or 2003 and then abandoned because they ran out of time, before becoming the raid known as Karazhan and the Burning Crusade. We know nothing about Karazhan Crypts, and people will be making pure conjecture until it comes out, but I expect us to perhaps see original quest lines and ideas make it back into the game. It could be the...
I hope that they do, like, original quest lines and new content like that. I do worry that it could be done in a bad way, but I just want Blizzard to try. Just try and do it. See what happens. 10v10 allows for more tactics and more meaning. Allows for war fantasy and grander strategy. Both have value. Yeah, for sure. personally don't really care a lot about the tactics or anything like that. It's, you know, it's not really a competitive game. I don't view WoW as a competitive game. I think that's basically like what it comes down to. Like, I know some people play WoW competitively, but I just don't view it as a competitive game.
Start of an alternate timeline with ideas from vanilla making a frontline return. We will likely get a new reputation to grind, new quests, new items, and perhaps even instead of being a 10-man level up raid, we're looking at the first new 20-man or 40-man raid in Classic.
I want to see a 40-man. Yeah, like, dude, I think it's so badass whenever you get 40 people together and you're raiding with everybody. I think it's awesome. I know some people are like, oh, 40-mans are too big. Nah, dude, 40-mans are fucking awesome. You get all the boys together. Everybody's riding there on their mounts. Like, everybody gets their world buffs. Oh, it's fucking awesome. I love it. Should absolutely be 40-mans.
But PvE without PvP just isn't World of Warcraft, and thus the new PvP zone event for Phase 4 is also likely to be new content. Since Karazhan Crypt's an abandoned and forgotten concept and ideas being brought back to life, so will, in my opinion, Ajara Crater, a completely new battleground dreamed back to life for Classic, as well as turning Ajara into a massive level 60 zone-wide PvP event zone. New reputations, quest lines, and much more are going to be given to us, and our dream is the limit, or in this case, the amount of risk Blizzard is willing to take. And thus, I conclude what I call the Season of Discovery introduction phases, which are amazing and incredible. Whilst we don't know exactly what we'll be getting, it's only the beginning of Season of Discovery because Blizzard has already said we're getting more content at level 60. And thus,
I think that's why I'm going to be really curious to see how they implement that content, man. I really do.
Introduce you all to the Season of Discovery endgame phases, which is phase 5 to 8. Now, you might think that 8 phases is a lot, but Classic, when it came out in 2019, had 6 phases, and that was re-releasing the original 6 raids. Now, this is what we call the educated guessing phase, where we have ideas and we know what they're going to do nominally, but despite knowing we're getting content, new and old, changes and more, we don't know what that is. So this is more of a wish list for content. So phase 5 is of course none other than Molten Core and the top 5 most iconic raids in World of Warcraft after Black Temple, Ulduar, ICC, and Siege of Orgrimmar. Don't crucify me for—
I think that we'll probably see the raids come out like pretty consecutively, like maybe a new raid every month or something like that. I don't really know. But what I really am looking forward to seeing is the actual, like, I think they should do the opening of the Gates of AQ again, for example. I think that would be fucking awesome. And like, it would just give people something cool to do.
Top 5 in the comments. Whilst Molten Core might not be the most iconic raid, Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker is the single most iconic in-game weapon from World of Warcraft, if you don't count Frostmourne or the Warglaives. We're looking at a remastered Molten Core, new bosses, mobs, quests, items, and perhaps even legendaries and reputations. A legendary that's already in the game but only one singular person got is the necklace back from vanilla, which got removed because it wasn't meant to be in the game. Now
I think that would be really cool. Like, if for example, like, the Talisman of Binding Shard, I remember this was like a, like old school, like, WoW
that guy was
item.
On Blackrock,
and it would be really cool if like the first
and I played on that server
Ragnaros
back
got this item like
retail.
On each server. So like you only had one item like this on each server, and it's like, it's really not that great of an item. Whenever you look at it, is this like a game-breaking item? No, it's not. I don't know. I just think having little cool things like that would be cool.
In the game. Now that necklace might not come back, but they already have legendaries they designed back then, which they could reincorporate into Season of Discovery. I'm not sure exactly how much they'll change Molten Core and with it Onyxia, but there will be changes. As for PvP, Blackrock Mountain is the single most cancerous PvP zone in the game. If you played on a PvP server, then you'll be having Vietnam flashbacks. So we know that Molten Core and Onyxia are coming, but what about new content? Allow me to introduce the new and improved Dire Maul or Blackrock Depths. These
BRD, I mean, if they make BRD into a raid, this is what I think that they should do for BRD, okay? I think what they should do is they should retune, you know how like whenever you go into BRD, there's like, and I've said this before, there's like that, the door on the left that you have to open with the special key. I think that, you know the big giant fucking golem that's guarding the giant door? I think they should completely retune him and make him a raid boss that's harder than Nefarian. And if you kill him, the door behind him opens. And that's the new raid. Or it leads to like a whole new area in BRD that has like new 40-man bosses. Because like that's how you make a game bigger, and that's how you make something cool like that. That would be fucking badass. Because, like, everybody always wondered back in the day, like, why is he guarding this door? Like, what's behind the door? Well, let's find out.
2 dungeons are massive, so massive in fact that in Cataclysm they got cut down and reshaped into multiple separate wings, and in BRD's case they just scrapped well over half of it. Either of these 2 dungeons make most sense as being a new 20-man raid or 10-man raid, and logically it makes sense because Blizzard stated that they wanted new players to be able to catch up easily phase to phase, so introducing more level 60 level up raids makes gearing a lot easier and allows transitioning into raids more easily, albeit
I don't know if you really need more level up raids or not. I think that honestly Molten Core is really easy. The reason why people aren't able to raid in Classic WoW, like there's a couple of different reasons, right? Number one, they could be on a dead server. Like this is a big problem, and I think it's something that Blizzard, like if Blizzard allowed you to raid cross server, I would be happy. I think that would be great. I don't like the idea that you can only play with people from your server. I think it's very harmful, and just in general, like it might sound like a good idea, like, oh yeah, it makes server communities, but what happens whenever somebody else's server community is dead, right? You have somebody who like literally can't play the game because there's not enough people on their server. I don't think that's a good thing. It's a very, very bad thing. It hurts the game a lot. So I would like to see, yeah, free transfers, or shut down the realm, merge the realm, do something, right? Make sure that everybody has the ability to actually play with other people. Because, like, for example, like, there's a lot of Burning Crusade realms or Wrath realms now that are just pretty much dead realms. So if you want to play the game and you're on this realm, you can get a free transfer to, like, maybe one other realm, but that's it.
I'm not sure if they'll focus all the effort into making the already existing raids better and more fun to interact with and keeping the...
And I think also another factor is they need to have an in-game group finder. And I don't mean like the looking for dungeon tool, but I just mean like a bulletin board that you can put up that can be accessed by players. And like, I personally don't care, like, theoretically, if you had something like this, that you had to click on it in town in order to open it up. Like it was like a adventurer's notice board or something like that. And the only way that you could use it is by going to it and clicking it, right? Because that would get more people to go into town. Like, kind of like, maybe that would be a good idea. Good for RP, bad for like functionality. Hard to really say which one's better. Maybe start with that, and then if it's too annoying, get rid of it, and then just make it a menu. But anyway, like having an adventurer's board where you can click on it and it says, these are the raids forming for Molten Core. These are the raids forming for MC. These are the raids forming for World PvP. And like, you can find stuff to do by clicking on the adventurer's board, right? Maybe have it inside of Tavern, yeah, something like that. Like, think about like how many like fantasy animes like are built off of that, right? Like Goblin Slayer, for example. So I think that, again, it's a trope that a lot of people appreciate and really like. And I think also it's easy to implement into the game, and it just makes the game better in general. I think a big problem is that nobody wants to sit in trade chat all the time, or sit in looking for group chat all the time, spamming and like waiting for somebody else to start a Molten Core group. It's annoying and it's completely antiquated. Like, there's no reason that you should have to do that. So yeah, I think that's what they should do, is make a bulletin board system, because the reason why I don't think players need catch-up raids. I think players need tools to play with other players. That's the main problem. And also, like, another thing, so fucking forgot. Another thing is that some specs were just garbage in Classic WoW. Like, if you're a Ret Paladin, I would never bring a Ret Paladin unless it was like a friend of mine to a raid, because they're useless trash. They're garbage. Why would anybody want to play with that? Same with a Moonkin. Why would anybody bring a Moonkin? They're useless trash. Why bring something that's bad? It's like you can either bring a warrior that does twice as much damage, or you can bring a paladin. Why would you ever do that?
12 weeks long, so we get a lot of hyper-focused content and then new phases before we get bored. Or maybe phases 5 to 8 will be 6 months long each, with a storm of content to keep us all content. Nonetheless, phase 6 is Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub. Yeah. 2 fun and interesting raids which will definitely get more quests, perhaps reputations, new mechanics, changes, and loot. The dungeons...
I really hope that Blizzard doesn't just make Season of Discovery harder. Like, I think if you want to tune up things for Molten Core and a couple of other raids, it's okay. But I really hope that Blizzard understands the reason why Classic WoW is so popular is because it's very easy. If you make the content hard, you alienate the people that the content is designed for. Like, Classic WoW was always a game of knowledge and skill, of knowledge and preparation, rather than skill and dexterity. It's too much. BFD difficulty is good? Yeah, BFD is fine. Kelris is not? Yeah, I think Kelris is too hard. Like, I think there's a lot of groups that are not going to be able to do him. Like, it's not really that bad, but it's really hard if you compare it to the other classic WoW bosses. Calibur ain't that bad. I love whenever I hear this from people that are sitting at 1 in the morning watching a Twitch channel talk about World of Warcraft, thinking that you have any sort of idea what the average player is. I'm not talking about you. How many people beat Kelris this second lockout on like your first 3 tries? It's a joke, right? It's a joke boss and a joke raid that's free loot. Yeah, first try. Yeah, we did too. But that doesn't really mean that this is the average experience, does it?
Most likely to get changed with this phase of Temple of Atal Hakar for ZG and Blackrock Spire for Blackwing Lair, correlating nicely with each other. Also, Blackrock Mountain being a horrible war zone probably continues into phase 6. Maybe Stranglethorn Vale.
Yeah, making Blackrock Mountain a war PvP zone would be really cool
as well at this point. But then again, perhaps this is an overload of content and I'm overestimating Blizzard's zeal, desire, and goals when it comes to classic Season of Discovery. There is a lot that they could do here, so much in fact that this could...
I think that their goals will change based off of how many people play the game. Like, if a lot of people are playing classic WoW and they're having a lot of fun with it, I think that Blizzard will invest more money and time into classic WoW. And if they don't, if they're not getting that out of it and they're not really making any money off of it and, like, you know, people are quitting, then I think they'll end it early. That's just what will logically make sense. Like, that's what I'd do if I was them, right? If, like, it's not hitting, then it's like, okay, we'll pack this up, let's try it again.
Usually be a 6-month content stretch between the 10-mans, 20-mans, and 40-mans. Let's move on though to phase 7, which is where I think we're going to see the most new content in the game. Scarab Lord is a very coveted title, and the Black Kiraji battle time is
they 100% need to bring back the opening of the Gates of AQ. Abso-fucking-lutely, they should do this. They should do different events for like for even like Nax and like BWL. I would love to have like open world events for like these different like raid releases, where like, let's say for example, you had like lieutenants of Nefarian that like on the opening of the gate of the opening of BWL, like leading up to it, like they would just like fly around Searing Gorge or some or Burning Steps, right? And these are like level like unknown bosses, and you know you'd have to need like, I don't know, maybe like 40 people to kill one.
Rarest mounts in the entire game. The opening of Kiraj and the Scepter of the Shifting Sand questline is long, awesome, and genuinely a wild experience.
It's one of the best quest lines in the game.
Or he said.
So imagine the things they could do here, the things they could add. Imagine a massive zone-wide PvP event in Silphus where the Horde and Alliance battle it out for new PvP reputations and items. AQ40 and AQ20 are incredible raids full of awesome bosses, lore, mechanics, and loot, and I can't wait to see what Blizzard does here. Now, we aren't theory crafting if we don't think about new content, and with that, allow me to introduce Uldaman, the new 10-man dungeon and another location to gear with levels.
Uldaman in a dungeon, I think that, like, again, I want to see extensions of the existing dungeons, and I want to see them make the dungeons bigger. Like, what if after Uldaman, I don't know, like, if you killed Arcadeus, like, whatever the guy's, the last boss is, and, like, you kill him in under 1 minute, for example, the entire platform opens to, like, a giant spiral staircase, and you can go underneath Uldaman, and there's even more raid underneath it. That would be fucking insane. And that's the kind of stuff that they need to do, right? They need to have something that, like, makes you wonder, like, what is that next really big, crazy thing that's going to happen? Because I'm trying to think about, like, the best example that I can give of this is Algalon. Like, who here remembers the first time that, like, you saw Algalon or you opened up the gate yourself and you walked out into that area? It was fucking badass. And yeah, actual discovery, yeah, just put it out and don't tell anybody. Yeah, Algalon was really cool. Are there any other examples? Like, for example, I love the fact that you can go to Molten Core from BRD. I actually think that's one of the coolest things in Classic WoW. That, like, you can do, like, the whole lava run and everything, and, like, the way that it's designed. It is one of the coolest things Blizzard has ever done to this day.
60 gear so you can delve into the raids faster. Last but not least, Phase 8 and the dreaded Nax Ramus, the so-called Guild Killer in Vanilla and definitely Guild Killer in Classic, as everything devolved into GDKPs and triggered hyperinflation. Nax Ramus will likely get more loot, new quests, new bosses, new mechanics.
Well, the reason why Nax was a Guild Killer is because it was hard. Like, there's really not a lot to it besides that. It was just a hard raid. Like, the numbers were high. It's not like Thaddeus is hard, but it's like if you do something wrong on Thaddeus, you're instantly dead. Which is, again, I think that's great design. I'm totally fine with that. I think that, like, a boss like Thaddeus is... I would rather do that type of a boss than the new bosses in Retail WoW. Because the bosses in Retail WoW, there's like 75 different mechanics. None of them kill you. But, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, you know, if you get hit by 3 of them, you're dead. I find it to be very boring. Easy mechanics, but punishing? Yes.
And more. That's to be expected. But what else will change in Phase 8? Well, let me introduce you all to the new 20-man or 10-man raid Stratholme, one of the most iconic places in all of Warcraft in the beginning of the fall for our beloved Prince Arthas. Now, this is me wishing, but it could make sense, as once Eastern Plague lands into a massive PvP zone event, which is already supported by the towers situated across the zone, it would make a lot of sense to have more than just Nax Ramus for the entirety of Phase 8, and the size of Stratholme already correlates to being a miniature raid anyways.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a lot of gold to get dual wield spec.
If Strat was the raid, I mean, that would be really cool. I would like that a lot. Where's the assumption for more quests and things being added to existing raids coming from? Well, Blizzard clearly implied it. Like, I mean, they very, very heavily implied it. They're literally showing footage in their own trailer of
I guess I'm gonna go kill Ellie's and
WoW.
what you call it?
There is 100% a
shields.
chance that they're gonna do this. It's not even a question.
I've spoken of, and even if they go absolutely a completely different path, the amount of content that Blizzard seems to be planning to add to Classic Plus Season of Discovery is staggering. And whilst all of this might not be in Season of Discovery, it will definitely be in Classic Plus. So whether Season of Discovery is Classic Plus or leads into Classic Plus, expect an obscene amount of content just from the end game phases. Now, this last section is going to be the shortest, but allow me to show you my terrible but somewhat decent guess to the final stretch. Welcome to Season of Discovery.
Healing move. Then you've got a little bit of a trek ahead of you, but you're definitely going to need to go to the Zoram Strand. To start this whole rune process off, you have to go into Blackfathom Deeps and defeat the first boss. So you're going to have to look for a raid group that's willing to go into there and do that. You don't have to clear the entire dungeon, you just have to loot this strange water orb off of the first boss. That's going to give you a quest, sending you to the Zoram Strand to hand that in. Next up is going to be a quest that's going to get you to go out and kill raging elementals around the world. You need to find water elementals in Ashenvale. These are going to be found around Mistral Lake. These water elementals are pretty easy to handle, but they're right beside the Alliance town, so be careful not to get yourself ganked if you're on a PvP server. For the fire and earth elementals, we're going to head to Stone Talon Mountains. To get there from Lake Mistral, there's the Talon Deep Path right beside the lake. That goes directly into Stone Talon Mountains, and it's going to save you a lot of time. From there, you need to run across Windshear Crag and go all the way up to the Charred Vale. Just before the Charred Vale are a bunch of small little fire elementals. These guys are pretty easy to take out and will give you that mode of fire, but for the mode of earth, you have to go deep into the Charred Vale and look for these raging earth elementals. They are very rare, and there's a lot of dangerous mobs around the area. So you're going to have to be careful as you move about, only pulling what you can handle and trying to find these earth elementals. While you're here, you might also want to get the Shamanistic Rage rune, killing the adaptive elemental that's in the Charred Vale as well. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone if you haven't already done that. Once you got these motes, I highly recommend either you hitting up an auction house, or if you're an alchemist, you crafting yourself an elixir of wisdom and an elixir of water breathing. These are going to be needed for the next step, and you don't want to go all the way to the Zor and if you haven't already done that. Once you got these motes, I highly recommend either you hitting up an auction house, or if you're an alchemist, you crafting yourself an elixir of wisdom and an elixir of water breathing. These are going to be needed for the next step, and you don't want to go all the way to the Zoram Strand just to go all the way back. And then head back to the Zoram Strand and hand it in. This is going to give you a special elixir that you can use at this bonfire to see a vision, and you'll see a quill boar enslaving a earth elemental. The quest giver thinks that's Herzik, and he thinks he's causing this disruption with the elementals. So we're going to have to head all the way to the Barrens. So we're going to have to head to Camp Taraho, past the Field of Giants, and to the Black Ridge. On the northern side of this ridge, you're going to find Herzik. he's an elite Quillbore with an elite Earth Elemental following him around. This is a bit of a tough fight. If you can have another person come with you, it makes it quite a bit easier, but if you're going to go about yourself, you're going to want to take out that Earth Elemental first and rather quickly, and then you're going to need to be smart about handling Herzik. Interrupting his lightning bolts just before he finishes the cast is key to making sure you don't take too much damage. If you interrupt too early, you get more auto attacks against you, but if you interrupt too late, you get lightning bolted, and that deals a lot of damage. Once you've taken down Herzik, you can loot his cane, and you can head all the way back up to the Zormstrand one more time, and the quest giver there is going to give you the rune for Earthshield. Congratulations on your journey in Season of Discovery. Zormstrand to hand that in.
Classic plus phases. This section right here isn't going to have me.
Phase 11? Oh, bro, like, this is just some fucking, bro, this is like some straight up, like copium fucking shit. Like Mount Hyjal, Oldham, Grimbatal, Gilneas. Like, yeah, bro, like, this is, yeah, 100% this is gonna happen. Yeah, tinfoil speculation, yeah.
What any of this will look like. This is just my guess of the content that's...
Man, this would be so fucking cool, wouldn't it be? This would be amazing. Mount Hyjal raid. I don't know, I think that at Mount Hyjal, because wasn't Deathwing supposed to be in Mount Hyjal? Yeah, I don't know. They could do something with that.
Coming once they finish with existing content.
Yes, yeah.
No matter how reasonable a guess, everything is in the air based on player feedback and reactions through all the phases. If you want to see more from me, watch this video right here. And subscribe and like the video if you're depressed. If you're not depressed, like and subscribe anyways. Thank you, Ebenhard out.
Well, there it is. And so, like, that's kind of the way that I see a lot of it, too, is that I think that they'll use Season of Discovery as a testing ground for what they're really going to implement in a longer-term Classic Plus server. I don't know if, like, we're going to be using our Season of Discovery characters, like, 5 years from now, 3 years from now. I don't think that'll probably be the case. But I'm okay with that. Classic team is 10 people, by the way. Yeah, well, I mean, wasn't the PoE team 7 people? So I don't really think that means that they can't do anything. Like, I mean, what's that? Didn't one guy make, what's this here, 8 people? Yeah, exactly. Valheim had 2? Yeah, like, I don't think that's really a big problem. Just make the game. It's gonna split the community in dev work? Yeah, for sure it will. Grimbatal Ray to be sick, too. The current Classic team owns? Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, guys. Like, I think everything that the Classic WoW team is doing is good. Straight up. Like, I'm happy with pretty much everything that they've done. Now, obviously, like, I don't really care a lot about PvP, so the Ashen Veil thing isn't really that great for a lot of people. But overall, I think that they are making all of the right decisions. And I think that also, outside of the WoW token, which was a horrible fucking decision, I think that every decision they made for Wrath of the Lich King has been good, too. I think that they've actually, like, they kind of have an idea of what the fuck they're doing. Maybe they play the actual game. So we'll see. We have 4 versions of Classic, and that's insanely awesome. Yeah, exactly. Just need to update the antiquated server system. Exactly. Instead of a new raid, give us a dating simulator. WoW token ruined the game for me. Yeah, just stop playing, right? And also, like, the WoW token, I can see that, but let's be real. People were buying gold even before then. What really ruins the game is that Blizzard not banning those people. That's the real problem. But yeah, I think that more and more Blizzard is starting to realize that there's, like, in my opinion, I think there is way more potential in Classic WoW than there is in Retail WoW. Like, the ceiling for Classic WoW is way higher than Retail WoW. I probably think that now there are more people that are playing Retail, because Retail is like just, that's World of Warcraft, right? But bad token normalized it. Oh, I understand that. I'm just saying, like there's like the way you feel about something and then the way it is. I'm just saying the way it is was still the same. Blizzard can do what, what's this here? Blizzard can do what the free-to-play games Dragonair did. I don't know what that is. Never thought I'd see the day where WoW was following OSRS's footsteps, but here we are. Yeah, I think that Classic WoW just has, like, a much larger future than Retail WoW does. Retail WoW has, like, its audience of people, and it has, like, a very dedicated player base, and Blizzard should just probably just keep making content for that player base. And then look at trying to make another big mainstream game like Classic WoW, make that for a wider audience. Is that even true? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would assume that more people play retail WoW overall, but I think that if you were looking at like engagement, this is like my guess, okay? I don't really know this. I'm just making it up. But this is based off of everything that I see and read and just like my general opinion on things. I think this is retail WoW. And I think also this is classic WoW. And eventually, classic WoW will be more popular. Based on what? Based off of excitement and engagement and the amount of people that are consuming content for it. And also just like based off of my own opinion about the game. Like, I'm gonna be real. I think a big problem with retail WoW is the fact that you have 50,000 different FOMO mounts that nobody can get anymore. There's so many things in the game that it devalues everything in the game. It's over-designed. You need tons of add-ons in order to play the game. I think these are big, big problems. And like, again, this is my opinion, okay? Like, I don't have like data for this because Blizzard doesn't show data for it. But as somebody who's played the game for over 15 years, this is what I think about it, man. I think it's massively fucking over-designed. I think that, like, there's no way that a new player can get into retail WoW and really enjoy it. And sure, yeah, it happens sometimes, but the frequency of it happening, I bet, is way less than it used to be. And I think I hear a lot more people, like, actually, you know what? Let's do a poll. I want you guys to do a poll, and I really want you to answer honestly so I can understand, like, if I'm off base on this or not, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a straw poll here. We're going to create the poll. What game are you playing? Okay. Actually, if you started WoW in the last 3 years, which version did you start with? Okay. Classic. Era, SOD, Wrath, TBC. Okay. Actually, let's do 4 years. We'll include the original classic release too. And then retail WoW. Anytime. So, and then we'll add another option. I've been playing WoW for longer, or I do not play WoW. Okay. So that way, add in neither option? Yeah. And so, which one did you start with? Which version did you start with? Okay, here we go. All right, let's do the poll. Let's see what people say. Give me your honest votes. I want honest votes here. Honest votes. Okay. So a lot of people have just been playing the game for a long time. Yeah, I'll link it again. Only new people. Yeah, this is for new people. Yep, be honest. Yeah, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. If I'm right, then I'm right. It looks like Classic is higher than retail, but I also have cultivated an audience of people that play Classic a lot more because, you know, I've been streaming a lot of Classic content. So, like, there's kind of a selection bias with this, so I'm not really sure. Like, I don't think that this data is enough for me to conclusively say that my opinion is right. Yeah, I don't know. It's not enough. Did you react to Miss killing Emmy? Yes, I did. I did see it. It's an indication. Yeah. And the chat is classic biased all day. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, like, okay. If, like, it was, like, for example, like, 70-30, then I'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm right. But no, this is too close for me to call. I don't think so. But anyway, the point is that I think Classic WoW will grow a lot. And I think that the growth that Classic WoW will have a lot more longevity than the growth that retail WoW has. And here's the reason why. I think a big problem with gaming nowadays is that every single game that you play, you're only playing the season of the game. You're only playing like a period of time in the game. And if you stop playing and you come back, usually you're completely left behind. Because Classic WoW is a game that builds on itself and doesn't add a lot of catch-up mechanics, and like besides like maybe ZG or something like that, but there aren't really a lot of catch-up mechanics. And if you're level 60, you got 60 at the end of Phase 6 in Classic WoW, you will probably end up doing Molten Core or ZG. Like, you don't go directly into AQ40 or Nax. So, if you build those steps, like, basically, retail WoW, you go from step 1 to step 2, and then the patch comes out, and you're back down at step 1, and you get back up to step 2 again. But in Classic WoW, you go from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. So, like, the process of time of, like, character gearing and character growth is way longer in Classic WoW. And that's what I like. For example, like, if you're level 40 and you quit playing Classic WoW a year ago, you can come back right now, and you're going to be right where you left off. There's still going to be people clearing Nax that are way ahead of you, and there's still going to be people that are lower level than you. But it lasts longer whenever you get gear. Yeah, exactly. So because it takes longer, it's better? Yes, but not because it's longer, if that makes sense. So the reason why it's better is because it provides a more robust progression system. And there's something that's actually tiered out, and it's not created through artificial means. So there's not like a battle pass that's driving it. It's basically like the progression loop in Classic WoW, in my opinion, is more fulfilling. Because, like in retail WoW, I know that every single patch that I play, I'm building a castle on sand. I know that as soon as the new patch comes out, everything that I've worked for will be meaningless and it won't matter, and I'll replace all of it in no time. And a person that just came into the game will be able to do the exact same thing that I'm doing with relatively no friction. But in Classic WoW, if I'm in BWL, I know that whenever I come back, I'll be ready for AQ40. So I have like a desire at that current time to gear my character out to look forward to the future of AQ40. And in AQ40, I look forward to the future of Nax. And here's what was so crazy about Vanilla WoW, is that in Vanilla WoW, you wanted to get Nax gear because you could clear Karazhan in Nax gear, and that's a level 70 raid. It was amazing. So, like, there's always a reason to progress, and there's never, that reason to just wait. That's it. A realm reborn in WoW would mean no token, essentially modern Classic WoW, yes. Like, I'm very passionate about this, but, like, can you guys see kind of where I'm coming from here? Really think someone doesn't know anything about WoW would prefer playing a 20-year-old game instead of a new game? That's a really good question. I don't know, because I don't talk to any new players. Yeah, I mean, like, yes and no, right? New players come into OSRS, but I think you bring up a very good point. You do. I really don't know. I think it is a big weakness. It definitely is. The gear treadmill will sooner or later happen in Classic, dude. Horizontal progression games always failed to get large player base. See Guild Wars 2. There's a reason why all popular games follow a seasonal mode. I think that, like, at a certain point, and this is an issue that Lost Ark has, at a certain point you do need a way for people to be, like, reset. Because you can't have progression from, like, you can't have, like, a 10-year progression path. I think, like, maybe, like, a 2 or a 3-year progression path that then gets reset, like an expansion, is probably a good idea. Like, that would be kind of where I would draw the line. Like, this is, again, it's kind of arbitrary, but that's where I would draw the line. Like, probably maybe 5 at the most. You should interview a new WoW fan. Yeah, it's just really hard to find somebody who's like that doesn't, you know, already kind of know what's going on. Lost Ark treadmill was crazy. Well, Lost Ark had the fundamentals to be an incredible game. Because, like, you remember how fun Lost Ark was the first month of the game? It's like you do all the fucking the quests and everything. You get to level 50. You fight the Guardians. You do your tower. You do the first raid. You get the gear out of the first raid. You finally get up to like 600 gear level. I think that's what it was. And then you can do tier 2. You do tier 2 raids. You finish your tier 2 raids. The final capstone raid is your first 8-man raid against Poseidon under the fucking water. This is like super badass. You finish that. You finally go into tier 3 after you max out all of your gear, and like then you fight Argos, which to be fair is a fucking garbage boss, but then you fight Vulcan, which is like an amazing boss. Then you do Vicus, you do Clown, you do fucking Belshazzar, and there's like so many other things that are like in between that. It was so fucking good. and they just killed the game with pay to win and time gating, right? So like it's not really the game's fault, and also like having over punishing mechanics to make it to where people don't do carries. But the first month of Lost Ark was one of the greatest gaming experiences I've ever had. And am I the only person that felt that way? I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Like, I had way more fun. The first month of Lost Ark was better than New World. It's better than Tower of Fantasy. It was probably not better than Final Fantasy, but like that was like kind of, I had played the game. Like, it's kind of a weird thing to say that. Fuck, like it was better than Dragonflight. It was better than Shadowlands. Ooh, maybe not. Shadowlands was pretty good on release, but I liked Lost Ark more, I think. Yeah, 100% better than Diablo 4. Classic? No, Classic was better. Classic's the greatest. Classic WoW is the best MMO that's ever been made. And in my opinion, I don't even think another game even comes close. I don't think it even comes close. Like, it's just the best by far. No, I'm not a RuneScape enjoyer. I don't really play it a lot. It's not that I don't like it either, but the combat's not really something I'm not interested in. So, like, if I don't see that or understand that, I can respect somebody that says that, like, you know, you're not really right about this. Like, RuneScape kind of does this. But overall, I do think that... I do think Classic WoW is the best game. Yeah, there's a video. Make sure to give it a like. Hopefully we get more of these. I love the Copium videos. Oh, yeah, my Waifu Cup is finally coming out. It's been a while, but... it's finally happening tomorrow, and, you know, this is pretty much exactly what you would have expected, right? Yeah. Yep. There we go. Even the little cup has ears. Purple equals win, naturally.
Next up is going to be a quest that's going to get you to go out and kill raging elementals around the world. You need to find water elementals in Ashenvale. These are going to be found around Mistral Lake. These water elementals are pretty easy to handle, but they're right beside the Alliance town, so be careful not to get yourself ganked if you're on a PvP server. For the fire and earth elementals, we're going to head to Stone Talon Mountains. To get there from Lake Mistral, there's the Talon Deep Path right beside the lake. That goes directly into Stone Talon Mountains and is going to save you a lot of time. From there, you need to run across Windshear Crag and go all the way up to the Charred Vale. Just before the Charred Vale are a bunch of small little fire elementals. These guys are pretty easy to take out and will give you that mode of fire. But for the mode of earth, you have to go deep into the Charred Vale and look for these raging earth elementals. They are very...
Why nobody is excited for Cataclysm. Yeah, true.
You know, at BlizzCon 2023, you could have heard a freaking pin drop in the room when Cataclysm Classic was announced.
Jesus.
Our journey will continue into Cataclysm Classic in 2024. The Classic journey started with you as a love letter to the WoW community.
To be fair, this was not the announcement, and it had already been announced and known, but yes, nobody gives a shit. She was very nice. She did a good job announcing it and doing everything. But yes, obviously people are mainly excited about Classic.
We asked what you wanted. You responded to us, and we listened.
No, I wasn't at BlizzCon personally. I was at an event over that weekend. So I don't know what it was like in the room.
God
but just
damn.
judging from the recording, a lot of people really were not that excited. Which is something, to be fair, that we all could have predicted. Cataclysm Classic... Yes, there is people out there that want to play it. Of course there's people that want to...
Nobody gives a shit. Like, literally nobody gives a shit about Kata. I mean, I don't even know why they're doing it. I think that they're, like, I don't know. I think it's almost a mistake to do it.
Play it. But the overwhelming majority of players have no interest in this version of World of Warcraft whatsoever. There's some hype, but compared to TBC, Wrath of the Lich King, and even Season of Discovery, Cataclysm Classic just doesn't really resonate with people. And I know that for a lot of you guys, you're probably sitting there wondering...
This is a weird thing, because I actually have more nostalgia for Cataclysm than, like, any other expansion. It's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't done the story of Cataclysm yet, is because it's such a big thing that I want to make sure that I do it the right way, and I'm worried about doing it wrong. Like, because you have to think, like, Cataclysm came out whenever I was, like, first starting college. Like, I first had, like, a ton of free time. I joined, like, a raiding guild again, like, everything.
Why? Because a lot of people watching this video right now, you probably never played Cataclysm back in the day. You probably don't know why so many people for the longest time thought that Cataclysm
there was a decent break for me though, from Wrath into Kata.
you know, Cataclysm offered to us as an expansion, it seems cool. I mean, you got a big dragon blowing up the planet and stuff. It's got a good premise. It's got some
well,
cool...
like, I read the Day of the Dragon book in, like, 9th grade or something like that. So for me, I was equally as hyped about this as I was about Wrath, if you can believe that. Because I knew who Deathwing was. I knew that we were going to fight Deathwing eventually, and I knew Deathwing was, like, way more fucking powerful than Arthas, right?
So
I was super hyped about this.
Worgen, goblins, these new areas, raids, and so on. But what was the reason people had for not liking Cataclysm back in the day? And what is the reason why today? Why are so many people not interested in Cataclysm Classic? And that's what I'm hoping to answer today.
Because Cataclysm is retail.
Of course, have to thank this channel's sponsor, Zygor. It's World of Warcraft's ultimate add-on for leveling, gold making, achievement farming, pet collecting, mount collecting, you name it, it does everything. Check them out down in the description below. So I've got 7 reasons why, 7 things that I have, you know, collected from my own thoughts and from my own memories of the expansion, because I did play it back in the day. 7 things that I would say are the reasons why people are not really into Cataclysm Classic and why they're not that hyped for it. The first point, and this is probably one of the weaker points, which is why I'm saying it first, but for some people out there, it might actually be one of the major reasons why they didn't like Cataclysm.
Why is that?
But it's the fact that the expansion destroyed the world.
That's a massive fucking reason. What do you mean? It's huge, yeah. Cataclysm was the end of the world as we know it. That it destroyed the nostalgia that people had for doing the old quests, going to the old world. Like, it's a massive fucking reason. Now, I think that reason is much less of a problem now because we have Classic, right? And we have Classic Era, so it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But yes, people were massively attached to it. Not really. The world was very boring in vanilla. It's not about whether it was boring. It's about whether people were attached to it or not. And people were fucking attached to it. I actually went through in Cataclysm and I did every single new quest because I farmed out all the achievements. And I genuinely think that the Cataclysm quests are infinitely better than the original quests. They are infinitely fucking better. They are amazing. But they weren't the original ones, and they weren't what people wanted whenever they first started playing the game. Or weren't what people did whenever they first started playing the game. That's just the truth. And it is a nostalgia reason, but nostalgia is real.
So much in love with. The premise of Cataclysm is Deathwing has popped out of deep home. He's causing chaos,
he's a real
tsunamis,
asshole.
earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and so on. And so Blizzard got it in their mind of taking Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms and completely revamping these old zones. And so Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms would
because let's be honest, some of the zones and the ways that you play classic WoW suck. Like you go to Westfall and there's 2 quests and then all the trappers just instantly kill you if you run away because they have a backstab. It's crazy, so you have to go all the way over to Loch Modan. Now, I think that as you play the game more, and this is something that's discovered with age and time and retrospective, is that those things in the game actually contributed to the genius and the brilliance of classic WoW, because it caused people to go out in the world and, you know, take an approach that they didn't necessarily like. But also, whenever I say something like that, that is something that is appealing to a small minority of players. And do you remember how I said in Wrath of the Lich King, Blizzard tried to attract an audience of people that didn't actually like the game? Well, guess what happens? Well, whenever you make an MMO that plays like an MMO, well, then people don't like it because they're not MMO players because they got pulled in from Blizzard. So basically, Blizzard changed WoW to appeal to non-MMO journey enjoyers, and they turned it into kind of like a, you know, like a much more streamlined experience. And the streamlined nature of it, I think, took away some of the magic.
Brought up to sort of a modern standard of questing, and
modern
content,
standard,
and so on and so forth. Zones were going to be reworked, quest lines were going to change, memorable characters were going to be forgotten, new characters were going to be added. You know, Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms, like the OG, like 2 continents from classic WoW, are kind of like sacred to the World of Warcraft player. And although it was exciting at first, this idea of Deathwing sundering the world and, you know, creating all this change across the 2 continents, everyone was excited for that back in the day, myself included. I mean, come on. But once it was, you know, like once this idea was experienced for the first time, the second time, the third time, you know, leveling up ults and stuff, it quickly felt like a downgrade. And we're gonna come back.
I actually would disagree with that. I actually think that in a massive way, the new quests were better. And I think they were better in like every way. Yeah, I really think the new quests are better in every way. I think that it just, the thing is that whenever Cataclysm came out, this was the end of 2010. The game had already been out for 5 years, and people had already made an attachment to the world in a certain way. I think it was really nostalgia
to this, but it felt like the world that we knew and that we loved had just been broken.
It was,
and not broken from like a lore perspective, like broken by Deathwing. Like it was broken in that what was special about it, the memorable characters and the quest lines and the things that made us fall in love with
Azeroth. Well, it's also like people had built up knowledge of like how to quest and how to level in WoW, and all of that knowledge just got reset and invalidated. And that's like another factor, is that, you know, players' experience and information about the game is now all deleted.
That had been destroyed, and it had been replaced with very linear quests.
Someone said name one memorable character that was removed with Kata. Oh, Blanchy. Like, that was easy.
Simple characters and a leveling system that really was just designed to get you to level cap as quickly as possible. This was the time when Blizzard was sort of changing things up. They were removing group quests from the level up content.
See, that's what the problem was right there. And like, this is what I'm saying, is that like, while I think that the quests are, so like, I think people can, like, I think this argument that I'm making is like extremely confusing because I'm saying 2 seemingly conflicting things. I think that for what they are, the Cataclysm quests were better and the questing experience was better as a game. But I think that for creating an MMO environment, the original vanilla WoW quests were better. Is that weird to say? That like the Cataclysm quests on paper and by every definition are better, but the quests in original vanilla WoW, the way their imperfectness created a perfect harmony. It sounds stupid, but like that's what I think.
Moving the necessity of needing to use maybe professions to help
like how many of you guys, like back in the day, like, so for Path of Exile, how many of you guys benchmark yourself? How fast can I kill Brutus? How fast can I kill Katava or phase Katava? How fast can I kill Malachi or Vol Oversoul or something like that, right? Like you have like, okay, I'm gonna be able to kill this boss this fast, right? To like benchmark your build, like while you're leveling. How many of you guys did that exact same fucking thing in Classic WoW and like Wrath whenever you're benchmarking a new character? Can I solo this quest? Can I solo that quest? Can I do this one by myself? Can I deal with this many mobs? So like it gave a way for players to benchmark themselves and for good players to, like for example, like I went and I killed like Hogger and like Vargash while I was leveling my Warlock. I did all that solo. And it was really kind of fun because it was like, this is what I used to do, right?
Well, not a necessity. It's not like you need professions in Classic WoW, but having, you know, alchemy and having those extra potions to help you when you're questing in the Barrens, or you're doing that Agaman Mills family crypt quest line in Tearsfall Glades, you know, whatever. You can probably conjure up some examples in your head. You know, it was relevant. It was useful. It was handy to have those things. In Cataclysm, not so much. Everything was just kind of nerfed into the ground. Like I said, I'm going to come back to this point several times, but Cataclysm really broke the world. It broke what was special about it.
Cataclysm turned the game from a world into a game. I think that's probably like, I think that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But that's what I think. Yeah, it turns it from a world to a game.
Move on to the second thing, though. The second thing is that the end game zones in Cataclysm, from Vashir to Mount Hyjal to the Twilight Highlands, they were all disconnected. And this is something that Blizzard learned from. Like, this was an
I actually didn't mind this. I like the new additions to the zones. I thought they were incredible. Like, Vashir is one of the best zones ever made. Hyjal is great. Deepholm is amazing. Twilight Highlands is okay. I don't really give a shit about it that much. And Oldham is also, I guess, good. Although it wasn't for me.
experiment. They had never done this before. You know, in past expansions, TBC, Wrath of the Lich King, whenever a new expansion came out, there was a new continent
I
that
didn't
we got
like
to
that.
explore, and all
I
the
liked
zones
in
were
Cataclysm
connected
what
and
they
so on
did.
and so forth.
I loved it.
Blizzard decided to do something different with Cataclysm, where they were going to have all the endgame zones separated and be in different corners of the world.
Yeah, I loved it.
And this was an interesting experiment, but Blizzard has never done anything like this since, because a lot of people did not like this. They didn't like how, oh man, you know, if I want to go from Twilight Highlands to Mount Hyjal, I gotta go through these
never
portals.
cared, but I didn't have a job
this,
then.
I gotta waste my Hearthstone and go back to Stormwind, Orgrimmar, whatever. It was annoying. It was frustrating. There was a lot of travel time between the...
I actually don't agree with this either, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because everybody had their Hearth in Stormwind. And also there were guild perks that allowed you to travel the world more easily, like have group will travel. And also you never really had to go from Deepholm to Twilight Highlands regularly, except for like maybe the first few weeks of the expansion farming reputation. So you never really had to do these things functionally. And inside of Cataclysm, there was a portal area for Horde and for Alliance that would take you directly to every single zone. In my opinion, if you had to fly there yourself, I think it would have been better, because it would have been more like these zones are part of the world.
Different zones, everything just
guild
felt
capes,
disconnected. It was just not a
cooldown,
it was an okay idea. Now there's nothing objectively wrong with adding more zones into the game. I think it would be cool for Classic Plus down the road, for example, for Blizzard to add new zones into Classic Plus, or finish zones that were just completely, well, not completed,
like Deadwind Pass,
like Ajara or Silithus, for example. But don't make these the end game zones. These should have been questing zones, and the end game stuff should have been condensed into an area, a continent, an island, and so on and so forth. I
actually disagree with that too. I like the idea that the end game zones are just right in the same area as the new zones. I think that it provides like a tremendous degree of scope and perspective in a game when you're going from like level 20 and level 5, and then you accidentally wander into like Deadwind Pass, and you just have a bird chase you down with an unknown level and it kills you in one hit. Because it creates like a sense of mystery, and it makes you realize like how small you are in the world. So I'm actually a very big advocate of making those zones that are just like these massive, super hard end game zones be right next door to Redridge. And they were. Look at Burning Steps. How many of you guys, whenever you started playing WoW, if you're vanilla, TBC, or Wrath player, what the hell's in there? What do they fight? I mean, they're that small. What happens if we aggro them? And then they hit you and they run you down, you die. Yes, bro. I remember me and Zach did that like the first month we first started playing WoW. And I remember we swam off the shore of Westfall. Because like, bro, like we beat Elwyn Forest, we beat Westfall, we basically ran the game at that point, right? We were like level 15 or so, level 17. Actually level 17, 16 IRL at the time as well. And we just swim. We're like, well, let's just swim this way and see where we go. We ended up on ZG Island. And there were like these level 63 trolls. And it was like, what the fuck, bro? Like, I think we're bad. Bro, are we bad? Like, I think we need to go back. We need to level. Yeah, I think we're bad. And so then it was like a totally different fucking reality check for how big the game was. It was insane.
This is a lesson that Blizzard learned from experience and from Cataclysm, and it was a reason why a lot of people did not like the layout or the zone layout of the.
I love the layout of Ashara or Vashir, is that it's just out in the ocean, and you wouldn't even know that it's there unless you go underwater. It was actually probably one of the best zones they ever did, and I'll tell you
Holy
guys
shit.
why.
I've actually got my fucking mount here. I don't even have a mount, and I have fucking reindeer. Bro, whoa.
Way slower than
the Reddit trick worked.
Hyjal. So ever since then, everybody has just hated Vashir because it's a slower leveling zone. If it was a faster leveling zone than Hyjal, people would have liked it.
Game at endgame, if that makes sense.
It's incredible.
The third thing, and I'll keep this very brief, but in regards to Cataclysm, the lore was kind of confusing. Let me ask a question right now. Very simple question.
He's right about this.
What was Deathwing's plan in Cataclysm?
He's mad. Bro, he's fucking mad. Like, Hey! Look at that mace! That's the two-handed mace from Deathwing at the end of the expansion. You couldn't have this during Tier 11. That didn't come out for another 2 years. That's the normal mode version of the mace. Look at it right there. It's a different mace. No, it's not.
What was his plan, you know, to bring about
I think that's a two-handed Deathwing mace.
The Hour of Twilight. Like, everybody knows that.
It's a Cho'Gall mace? No, it's not.
But what was he doing to bring about the Hour of Twilight? What was he doing personally?
That was true. Nobody understood why the fuck Ragnaros came back, but everybody was happy because it was Ragnaros.
The only thing that Deathwing does, lore-wise, if you really think about it, is he pops out of Deep Home, and he sunders the world, then he flies around and lights zones on fire, and then he summons Ragnaros in the whole Mount Hyjal area for the Firelands raid, if I remember correctly. And aside from that, that's pretty much it. He's just kind of flying around, just lighting zones on fire, just waiting for his raid to come out. Where, you know, he flies up to Wormrest Accord, and then you got Thrall, and he blasts him with a giant golden dinner plate, and then we jump on his back and we kick his ass.
Which, like, theoretically should have been really cool. Like, the implementation of the Deathwing fight, Deathwing should have been the best fight in the history of WoW.
I'm just forgetting, you know, because it's been obviously a very long time, but looking back at Cataclysm, it just kind of seemed like the villains were there. And it was just, we were kind of just hopping from raid to raid, but the villains didn't really seem to have like a plan or like a well laid out, we're going to do this, 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 and this to bring about this conclusion. It was just more like, here are the villains, they're trying to bring about the Hour of Twilight, whatever that means, and however that's done, and we gotta stop them. But this was something in Wrath of the Lich King as well. Like, the lore was a bit confusing.
The dungeons were good.
That's a video for another time. I remember talking to my friends about this even
I remember my friend met like his wife in a random Halls of Origination 5-man that we queued into in Cataclysm.
Back in the day, like, what is Deathwing doing? Like, lore-wise, you know, this is when I was really into World of Warcraft lore personally, reading the books and reading the Shattering and stuff, or I think maybe it's called the Sundering. I don't remember. It was the Warcraft book that came out at the time. And I was just a bit confused, but maybe that's just a personal point from me and my friends at the time. The fourth reason why a lot of people did not like Cataclysm is because of how early game focused it was. Now, for someone like
I played the game a lot, and so because I did all the achievements, I got all of the content out of Cataclysm that it had because of the way that I played the game. But in general, I think that's the case.
Me, like, I'm an altaholic. I love leveling in World of Warcraft. It's my favorite part of the game.
This was the stupidest cinematic that Blizzard's ever done. It was even dumber than the Dragonflight one.
I'm in a minority when I say that. I know that most people are really more focused on the end game and stuff. But Cataclysm was mostly focused on the early game, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but here we go. The problem was that the early game experience that we got to have in Cataclysm was of a lower quality experience than what we had before. Now, some people...
But you have to remember that whenever Cataclysm came out, that's what everybody was wanting. Everybody during Wrath of the Lich King was complaining about the problems that Cataclysm solved. Like, Cataclysm and the revamping of the zones and everything was a response from the players. Or, sorry, a response to the players. It's just that the players were wrong. Or they weren't necessarily wrong, they just weren't the right audience for an MMO.
Argue the contrary. They would say, oh no, the storytelling was better, and the quests were, like, you know, better laid out and stuff. And you're right, but that's what made it boring. Once you've gone through Silverpine Forest once or twice or 3 times, you know the story. You've seen Garrosh call Sylvanas a bitch.
Not anymore. They took it out.
Gone into Gilneas with the Forsaken and fought with them. You've seen, who was it, Godfrey, when he shoots Sylvanas in the back of the head? You've seen this linear story play out over and over and over. Whereas in classic WoW, you know, what came before, and this is, I mean, I can make a whole video on this subject alone, but you really had the idea of the story was not linear. It just kind of took you wherever you wanted to go. You made your own path. You made your own adventure. You weren't being led from quest to quest to quest. And so the thing is that Cataclysm put all this focus on the early game, and yet the early game felt like a downgrade from what we had before. And this,
I think that, like, again, at the time, people thought it was pretty good, and they were happy about this. And that's what I'm trying to, like, kind of talk about, is that, like, at the time, people were very, very positive about these changes, and they thought the new quests were great. Here's an interesting question. If World of Warcraft that came out in 2020 and 2004 had the Cataclysm quest zones, would it have been that good of an MMO? I actually think no. But I think the reason why people don't like them is primarily because of nostalgia. But I actually think that the questing being bad in vanilla WoW caused people to have to do different weird stuff. Like, let me think of an example that works really well with this. Elden Ring. Okay, so with Elden Ring, every single person that plays Elden Ring probably has a different story of how they approached killing Margit, because of how hard of a boss it is. Margit is a tremendously hard boss, and every single person will.
I played Samurai though, so.
And go up against Margit because
Bleed
they
builds.
follow the path of grace. They go up against Margit and they get fucking stomped, right? And some people go and massively overlevel it. Some people just like spend 5 hours, like, you know, learning the game and like fucking beating them with their current gear. Some people do summons. Some people look up a strategy and like get a +9 weapon and then one-shot Margit instead, you know, with like one attack with Comet Azer. And like every single person has like a different perspective. And that open-ended way that you can approach the game creates a way for a player to tell their own narrative in the game and have ownership of the success in the game in a unique way. And I think that Classic WoW gave players that same opportunity by providing, like, you know, insurmountable at the time challenges that if you're really, really fucking good, you can kill Margit and you just go right up there and you beat his ass. Absolutely you can. But the odds are you're not very good because you just started the game. So I think that's the thing, freedom to choose, right? Classic WoW, remember what I said before about like my favorite kinds of games, you know, PoE, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Classic WoW, they are games that ask you to get to the number 4, but they don't tell you that you have to do 2 + 2. You do 3 + 1, 4 + 0, 5 plus -1, 5 - 1, 6 - 2. You can do anything that you want. 8 divided by 2, 12 divided by 3, doesn't matter. All you have to do is get to the number 4. And I think that games that provide you an open-ended way to achieve goals give players more ownership of the success. Does that make sense? Yes.
This is not some...
And I think this was not something that anybody... I want to keep in mind, this was not something that anybody really understood at the time whenever Cataclysm came out. Nobody really understood the context of, like, why the game was so good. Because, in a way, we had to have... Like, Cataclysm allowed us to realize what the problem was.
Personal opinion that I have, I mean, it is a personal opinion to be fair, but this was a genuine criticism that a lot of people had of Cataclysm back in the day. There was even the fact that the level up experience felt less satisfying because the world had been nerfed. It had been made a lot easier.
Massively easier.
I mentioned earlier in the video
a lot of the
Blizzard
group quests
had
were gone.
removed almost all of the group content from the game.
Yeah, I used to really take a lot of satisfaction out of leveling up a new character and figuring out ways to solo group quests. Maybe that's like a dumb thing, but like I really love that.
There was still some here and there. You can find some in Cataclysm, like the Durnhold quest line where you do the Durnhold quest, but to be fair, you can solo all of that as a hunter. I remember doing that back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, there's still group content, but it's very few. It's very far between. The world is not challenging anymore. You're just kind of running through it. Even when it comes to talent points in Cataclysm, they removed most of the talent point, like, I don't know the word for it, like potentiality in the game. In World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King, you've got, what, 70 talent points that you can play with? I don't even remember off the top of my head. But the point is, in Cataclysm, you have, whereas you would think that you would get 75 talent points, the level cap going from 80 to 85, no, Blizzard actually nerfed the whole talent system, and in Cataclysm, you're only going to have 41 talent points. You're only going to be getting a talent point every other level. So the leveling was faster, it was more linear, it was more boring, it was less rewarding, it was less engaging, and
So here's really another fucking thing, is that y'all remember those stupid motherfuckers that you would see back in Wrath of the Lich King, and you would inspect a Death Knight, and he'd have, you know, his talent points would be 20 points, 20 points, 20 points? Because players were just so fucking stupid they didn't understand their talent builds? Or you'd say somebody who had every single point in the same tree? Well, Blizzard made it in Cataclysm to where you had to actually select your capstone talent in order to select talents from another talent tree. And this was like kind of like a noob protection, but it also made builds less interesting. It made making builds less interesting because it removed a lot of customization.
Like, even though there was all this emphasis put on, like,
New
the
proof?
early
Oh,
game
they were still
to make
garbage.
it as great as possible for a new player coming into the game, but it actually had the opposite effect. Like,
yeah.
The opposite effect occurred with Cataclysm, and people found the new early game, well, kind of boring. Very boring, in fact.
I didn't mind
Maybe
it
the first
personally.
time you go through it, it's fun, but
Yeah,
after that
exactly.
first time, I'm telling you, it's dull. But, you know, some people feel that way about classic WoW too, so to each their own.
Maybe it's like an example of like, you know, again, like Dark Souls 1 or Elden Ring, and like how open-ended the experience of playing the game is, and comparing it to Final Fantasy 16. Where like Final Fantasy 16 is like an incredible, amazing game, but it doesn't have a lot of replay value because it's very uniform and it's the same every single time. Whereas with Elden Ring or Dark Souls, you can approach the game in a completely different way.
The fifth point was the introduction of a lot of group finder content. This was something that really hurt the social element of the game during Cataclysm's lifespan, and it was something of great controversy that still kind of exists to this day. You can find threads where people still talk about this on the forums and on YouTube videos and stuff. The introduction, or rather the making the game revolve very heavily around looking for group and later on looking for raid. And so people have a sour taste in their mouth when it comes to Cataclysm because of
Adding an automatic queue was a bad idea. I believe that you should be able to play with anybody on any server at any time in any way. Servers are a technical limitation, and all they do is separate players and make the game worse. That being said, I do not think there should be any automated group finding. Players should be making their own groups and deciding who they play with and what they're going to do together all the time. Maybe for like holiday events, right? Like a Hoon or something like that. Sure, it makes sense, automated group finding, because it's just like basically fun content. But actual challenge content, no, I don't think so. It works great for Mythic Plus. It does. Exactly. Yeah, Mythic Plus effectively solved that problem. Disagree, it makes a better experience. Yeah. Group Finder is bad. Hard disagree. Okay, let me explain why I believe this, okay? So the problem really is that whenever a group finder is used, and it's an automated group finder, you now are at the mercy of the game's selection choice. How many of you guys got groups sometimes in like the end of Wrath that had 2 people with ICC 25-man heroic gear? And you just cleared the dungeon and it was like nothing ever happened. And how many of you guys also had some group with a guy that's using gear from like Burning Steps, and he's level 80 and he's tanking Halls of Reflection? Okay, like he has no idea, he's getting killed in like one hit. Or like in Burning, or like, yeah, in Cataclysm, they still have gear from Wrath of the Lich King questing, right? Because they just quested all the way through. And the problem is that whenever you have automated group content, you create an expectation in the player's mind that the content will be easy and that they will be able to clear the content. And if the player is not able to clear the content because the group that they were assigned is bad, they won't play, they will blame the game, because the game has effectively engineered a situation that wastes their time and causes them to fail. And that's what ended up happening, and that's why they ended up continuing to nerf the dungeons and the raids in LFR and LFD. So that's the reason why I think you need to remove automated group finding, because it creates situations where the game engineers fail states. And I don't think the game should engineer fail states. There isn't a conversation on how to prepare. Yeah. Streaming at the city is not wasting time. No, I don't think you should have to do that either. I think that the current retail, like bulletin board system that they have, should be what the entire system is replaced by. And I would even be okay with for heroic and normal dungeons, especially in retail WoW, to teleport directly to them. Is that a good system overall? Yeah. I agree, but what's the alternative to being able to find players and pick at the same time? You just open up a group finder and you join a group. What's the problem? Why can't you just apply to a group and get invited or make your own group? Gatekeeping? Make your own group. If gatekeeping is this big of a problem, the people that complain about gatekeeping are 9 times out of 10 just trying to get carried.
Those two things, it was sort of like Cataclysm.
Like, oh, I've got applied to the new raid. I have greens. I'm getting gatekept, Blizzard.
All right, let's make a video here.
Get the fuck out of here, puss.
Okay. Yeah, it was good. Check it out. We got a mount, and we're not in Ashenvale. And this is Season of Discovery, by the way. Level 25, 60% mount. So yeah, this is actually a really easy glitch. I don't know if it's an exploit. I mean, to each their own, but the presents that you get underneath this tree here, one of them will give you preserved holly. So how to do this glitch, where you get a mount at level 25 faster than the Ashenvale mount by 10%, is when you're on a flight path, you can actually use the preserved holly, and it doesn't look like it does anything like while you're on the mount ride, but you can, like, apparently while you're on the Wind Rider or Eagle, I guess if you're Alliance, what calls it counts as a mount, so it'll use one of your preserved hollies, and as long as you're landing like outside. Someone's already asking me. So anyways, as long as you're going outside, like I guess this wouldn't work if you were landing up there, because I think that's not technically outside, or like on Thunder Bluff. But if you're what you calls it, people want to know. But yeah, as long as you are landing outside, basically you'll get this mount as soon as you land, type of deal. I mean, that's what happened, how I did it. And yeah, you got like a temporary mount until you dismount. And yeah, that's the video. How to get like a 60% mount outside of Ashenvale. Not that hard. Alright. Finish that recording there. Okay, I'll respond to this guy.
Make your own group. Learn to fight. Get better gear. Stop trying to get carried. Gatekeeping. Get the fuck out of here.
Began sort of the death of the MMO, like the whole massively multiplayer element, and it started to introduce this idea of being a single player World of Warcraft player, where you didn't need to get into a guild, where you didn't need...
I actually disagree with this too, because this Cataclysm was the first expansion that incentivized guilds more than any other expansion, because they added levels and different rewards for being in a guild. And on top of that, I think that playing Classic WoW, the reason why it was extremely successful is because you could play the game solo, and you didn't have to rely on other players in the same way that you did in older MMOs like Ultima Online or EverQuest. So I think that the success of Classic WoW was primarily around the fact that grouping was heavily incentivized and it was massively rewarded, but it was not mandatory. And I think in Cataclysm, guilds were even more incentivized.
To interact with people, you didn't need to go out and make friends in order to conquer the world, and people really did not like that. The 6th point, going back to the LFR thing,
basically all I'm going to be doing here in the next little bit would be getting those 2 potions off the AH, going back there, and I'll get that'll get me my Earth Shield rune. There's like 2 more after that, right? Yeah, you can. So yeah, 2 runes, dual wield, and like there's another rune there as well that or no, actually no, that'll be dual wield, will be the last rune that I need, and it's like that's gonna be a lot of gold farming and shit. But yeah, dual wield and Earth Shield. So once I turn the shit in, I'll have 11 out of 12 runes. But I'm gonna take a quick break, kinda. I'll be back in like an hour or so. We're gonna be doing a raid for group 2. Someone sniped my tank spot for the first group, so I'll go in group 2. Alright.